this might be the first time in history that we disagree. We disagree, which is good. This means that we can help our clients even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
If you're at risk over $20,000 in a sale price of your house to make that dream house happen, you're not in financially stable position enough to make that move up.
So if there was 1 or 2 planning tips that you would give to the viewers, what do you think that would be? Welcome to the TNT Real Estate Podcast, where we spark conversations that set you up for real estate success. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tanya, and each week we bring you expert tips on navigating Northern Ontario's real estate market. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you thrive.
Welcome back to the TNT Podcast. I'm Tanya, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Tyler. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
What happened this week? You had a big event this week.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen you in a couple days because I missed the office all day Wednesday because I was prepping. It was my son's 18th, my baby, 18th birthday.
Wild.
Yeah, so my baby's turned 18 and he will be soon leaving the nest.
Leaving the nest?
Isn't that crazy?
This weekend he's going to drive to Quebec so he can have his first legal beer.
Well, we talked about that. Jacqueline had done that when she was 18. We were at the ski hill and it was like, hey, you want to go to the bar with me? Yeah. We have done that before already in Montreal. They just don't know. Good. But yeah, we're going to Jazz Festival this summer, so that'll be fun. And he can definitely partake in the sort of 18 plus shows as well.
Right.
So that'll be nice.
Good for him.
Yeah, a little adult.
That's exciting.
That's nuts. So today, talking about growing up, we're going to be talking about upsizing. Upsizing your home, so moving from your first house into the next house. Right. And it's something that can be a little bit tricky. You know, you see it on Instagram and it looks great and moving into a big, beautiful house, lots of room, but it's a little bit trickier to do in real life. Right.
It is. I hope that this is going to be therapeutic for me because I'm like at that stage where we're trying to decide, like now that we have number 3 and then where our house just feels like a little bit more cramped, I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to give me some clarity on like how to get to the, or if we even go.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of our agents in the office also are of that demographic where they've sold their friends and clients that first house. And now those people are in that midst of thinking about moving up, you know. But it's tricky, you know, we talk about in the office with them, what should I advise them to do? Do they sell first or buy first? And so I guess that leads us into segment 1, buy first or sell first.
Right.
How do we navigate this?
So when I'm working with my clients, it really depends on their risk tolerance. So if they're, and it depends on the market, it depends on all sorts of stuff. But at the end of the day, I feel like if they can figure out I mean, you could be homeless in all this, right? And so if they can have that risk tolerance, I would say sell first. And if we don't find something, then we have to go into like a midterm, you know, maybe do an Airbnb or moving with family. And so it really...
Could you move into an Airbnb though with 3 kids?
Absolutely not. No.
And a dog.
So I'm 100%, well, maybe not 100%, but I think I am team buy first and then sell. Yeah. But that really depends on the market. Like we're in a good balanced market here in Sudbury. And so that kind of takes the risk, especially when you're, you know, selling your first time home buyer's house and then moving up. The higher ranges rarely ever move as quickly as the lower ranges just because, you know, less and less people can afford that. And so if you're buying or if you're selling like your typical, you know, first time home buyer's house, it's a fairly easy sell, especially if it's priced right and looks okay and it's not falling over. It should be a nice, easy sale. So buy first, maybe do a little bit of a longer closing, and we might be getting into the weeds a little bit too much right now. Okay. But yeah.
I might be the opposite.
Okay.
I think, well, maybe I'm not the opposite. It depends, like you said, on risk tolerance and finances, right? So let's say you've got a family, you've got a little house in the South End, a little bungalow, 2 kids, maybe a third one on the way, and you want some more space. It can be really financially challenging to buy without selling.
Right.
At least if you sell first, you know what your budget is. You're not at risk of having 2 mortgages, having to handle 2 properties, thinking about what am I going to do? Am I going to rent this property? I think in some cases, you know, maybe it's 50-50 buy first versus sell first. Right. It really depends on that, on the circumstances and the risk tolerance. And can you Imagine moving into something temporary, or would you rather know what your house is sold for and then have the budget clear on what you're going to buy?
This might be the first time in history that we disagree. We disagree, which is good. This means that we can help our clients even better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on the circumstances, right? Because like you said, if you're in a house that's very saleable, maybe there is little risk in that house selling if you've already bought. But then, somebody says something, the economy sort of takes a bit of a shakiness depending on where things are going, especially politically now, with, certain someone saying something and it changes the course of action. That can sort of put a temper on the market. But I feel like right now things are becoming a little more stable. And if your house is highly sellable, your risk might be low. But
yeah. So the pros of selling first, obviously, exactly what your budget is, which is, very important. You're not in any risk of having a double mortgage, also really good. And then you're also in a strong buyer's position as well.
Yeah.
The buyer position is almost the most important, because even if you're like a little bit shaky on what the budget could be, being able to go in and have, this much, a couple $100,000 in equity if you're moving up, then you can take risks, whether it's not including your financing condition, going in unconditional. If you're if you do your inspection pre-offer, then you could go in with a really strong offer. So yeah, makes sense.
There could be the downside. I think the biggest downside would be to sort of feel that pressure to buy, right? You've sold your house. You've got a timeline that you have to move out depending on, like you've mentioned, the conditions in your offer.
Right.
Is there flexibility in moving that, or are you under the gun to find the right place? That can certainly be one of the biggest cons. If you're looking for that perfect next house, you're going to be under pressure if you've already sold your house.
Right, yeah. Especially if you're looking for something, like I have a lot of like my move up clients right now, for whatever reason, they all want space. Like they want like an acre or 5 acres or 10 acres. And like that stuff only comes on the market when it comes on the market. It's not like it's like a steady influx of, subdivision homes that are beautiful, which we get, a couple a week. So that is, that's a little bit where my bias is coming from, because they're important to find, especially when they're, unique.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of talk about that.
Right.
When inventory is tight, what if the right house hits on the market and you're not ready to buy?
Right. Then you buy it.
Because maybe buying it makes sense, right? But you have to have a plan on how to move forward.
Right.
So the pro there is that you found that dream house, you found that acreage, you found that bigger property. It fits your lifestyle. You know where you're moving. You don't have that insecurity or that pressure of finding a place.
Right.
You're not going to have to move twice. You're not going to have to move into an Airbnb for a time and then move into your forever home.
Right.
But there is a huge risk, right? What if something happens and your house doesn't sell in the time frame?
Well, the risk is, carrying multiple houses, which is, could be devastating for some families. And then the other thing is, it really depends on the market. Like if we had it last year, especially in the fall market, 1 week the market was extremely hot. The next week it just cooled down and nothing sold. And so like if that happens, then we're, in a little bit of a risk of, do we reduce the price and maybe take a loss, or do we, just keep it at the same price? Might have to carry 2 houses for a little bit. So it is a little bit riskier,
Yeah, and I think you have to understand too, like one of the things we consult and our agents consult with the clients is, we give them the ideal price. Here's kind of where the market price is for your home. This is where it should sell. Right. But let's also do like a fail-safe. This is the bottom line. There's no way you're going to sell it for less than X price, right? If you can give your clients that bottom line, that reassurance, and it still works for them to move in that house. And I think maybe that's important, is that you look at what is the minimum that my house is going to sell for, and then make sure that that move up still makes sense. Because if it's tight, you probably shouldn't be moving up anyway.
Right.
If you're at risk over $20,000 in a sale price of your house to make that dream house happen, you're not in financially stable position enough to make that move up.
Yeah.
So maybe you should reconsider.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And as important it is to work with a professional realtor that has done this before, it's equally as important to work with a professional mortgage broker.
Absolutely.
That can guide you along these lines. Like if you really need to understand the bridge financing aspect, the TDS GDS ratios. You need to understand if this house doesn't sell for whatever you need it to, and you have to sell for $20,000 less, does it still make sense? And like you were saying, like if it's that close, maybe you reconsider or move the budget down just a little bit. But yeah, you really need to work with professionals when you're moving up.
The lender might also be able to give you a scenario of, okay, if you can rent your house for, say, rental market's pretty good right now, pretty hot. If you can rent your house for $3,000 a month, they'll consider half of that towards your debt service ratio, your DDS there, TDS. And in that case, maybe it's possible to have a contingency of renting, but not really advisable.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so what is the biggest upsize mistake that you see people making?
I think people who are shopping for that home, they're shopping for that lifestyle without understanding the finances behind it and being very clear on their budget.
Right.
Not only the budget of what is that next mortgage going to be compared to my current mortgage, but what's the cost of acquiring that property and what's the cost of selling my property? You're going to have a land transfer tax on that new property.
Right.
It's not unavoidable. Can't get away from that. And then you're going to have real estate fees and transaction fees, lawyer fees on the sale of your property. So I think, if you're shopping for lifestyle, you really have to understand the budget and what your current house is going to sell for.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking back because you have a sell first story, right? Well, like when you sold your first one, you went into a rental for a little while, and then you were ready to rock when you found the house that you wanted. Yeah,
we knew that the area we wanted to live in was always competitive. Like 10 years plus, there was always competition to find the right house.
Right.
And I have competed for every house that we ended up buying, right? But so we had to be in that position to buy without selling. So we bought a duplex and moved into it.
Right.
That was the plan. Yeah. But you're in a position now, which is interesting. You're in that position. You're still in that first home and you're growing. And it's now time to maybe move up.
The walls just keep shrinking and getting smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, it's a good strategy, especially if you have that flexibility to, be able to either buy a duplex and then, refinance it when it's ready and buy it. Or if you have the cash reserves, like that is a fantastic way. But I feel like when you have, did you have kids when you did that?
We did, yeah. We had both kids. Yeah, we had both kids.
Great, yeah. Okay.
We didn't have any renters though. Ben was against having any tenants in the place, so it was a vacant duplex at the time anyway.
Right.
So we just lived in it for a year. I want to say maybe a little more than a year.
Right.
And found that next
and then
house.
You're ready to. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. My wheels are turning already.
Okay, so maybe you guys buy a duplex and then move into it for a little bit and sell your house. It's always nice when you have kids if you can sell your house empty. It's a huge privilege to be able to do that. Right. Maybe move into an Airbnb. That could be wise.
Yep.
So in order to upsize, we talked about maybe getting a little bit ahead with the rose-colored glasses on that big next house before knowing your budget. Would you ever advise listing below the market to guarantee the sale before you buy?
Before I buy, it depends on the market. I would say yes, if the market's can handle that. Like if we are in, a COVID market when everybody, it's almost like you have to do that to be able to sell your house at a reasonable price, then 100%. If we're in a buyer's market where, maybe they're not in a rush to sell, I would say no, because you price it where you want to sell it and then have a little bit of negotiation room. And if you're not in a big rush, now, if the house comes up and it's your house, then you can drop your price, hopefully get a couple offers or an offer. But if we're in more of a buyer's market, I would say price it where you want to sell it, have a little bit of negotiation room, and then offload it when it's ready. I wouldn't put that much risk into a multiple offer situation for a non-guarantee.
Yeah. Maybe it's good to sort of understand what your bottom line is and where you can make the move happen. Okay,
so we've been kind of all over. You have your decision on what you would do. I think I have my decision, but I'm questioning my decision now that I have heard your points. So let's give the people a little bit of like a sequence. And so if you're considering moving up right now, this is what we would recommend to do. So first would be a realistic evaluation of what your house. So have a realtor over, have them do an analysis on what your house will sell for in this market, and even like their guesstimate on 30, 60 days from now. And that is very difficult to do, but let's start with what it is actually worth right now. The next one will be to talk to your mortgage broker. Now, the mortgage broker is going to say, congratulations, I would love for you to move up. What's your house going to be worth? Now, this is where you take the conversation that you just had with your realtor and say, I already have had a realtor over. They say that it's worth X amount. And then they can build that in, and they would know how much equity that you can move forward to the next house. Next would be, after you know what you can spend on the next house, it would be a timing conversation with, and it's almost like a strategy call, timing with your realtor and even mortgage broker as well, making sure that you have your timing down. Is this, a 30-day decision? Are you buying first? Are you selling first? Can you buy first? Can you sell first? Like, it's a whole strategy session. And in that session, the realtor will probably tell you, okay, you know what, if we do these little tweaks to your house, we might be able to get a little bit more out of your house, and then it makes things that much easier. After that would be to, prep your house pretty aggressively, put away all the knickknacks, depersonalize. If you have children and me and lots of toys hanging around, maybe get a bin, not a garbage bin, but like a storage bin. Put all your stuff away, just make it nice and clean. And we know it's very difficult to do, especially with, full families and dogs and cats and all the things. But it's very important to kind of prep, keep the house nice and clean for all the showings. Mm-hmm. And then last would be to negotiate with a little bit of structure. So the negotiation can happen before the listing with the realtor, and we can kind of decide when we're going to be showing the property, what our fallbacks are. And if you decide to buy first, it's negotiating. There's all sorts of different ways to negotiate and structure these deals, so make sure you're working with a professional. But some of the ways would be longer closings. If you can do a 4 or 5 month closing on your next house, that gives you a big runway on what to do with your house, especially if you're buying first and not selling. The other way is, if you're thinking about selling first, you have a longer closing to be able to buy, or you have, you need to have these conversations with your family members or Airbnbs to say, we need a couple months. Can you help us out? Mm-hmm. So if there was one or two planning tips that you would give to the viewers, what do you think that would be?
I think the structure, everything that you discussed, is so important. Planning ahead of time and being aware of the next steps and how the sequence that you're going to go through with the upsizing process is so important. You spent so much time in your home. The equity has been built over the years, and it can be lost with one rushed decision. So it's important to take time and develop the structure for the process.
Right. That's totally good. How about some like a little lightning round?
Ooh, let's do that.
So, we get these questions all the time. So it's more of like an FAQ. But what happens if my house doesn't sell fast?
And then it was priced wrong, or it wasn't show ready.
Fair.
Homes in Sudbury will move fast if they're, priced right and show well.
Right. Yeah, the inventory just isn't there.
Yeah.
For it to not move fast.
Okay, Tyler, for you, what if I find the perfect house before my house is sold?
Buy it anyways and figure it out. No, I think if it's your house, try for it. And I had a couple clients last year that were kind of in this scenario. We tried for it. We lost out in competition. So it's like, sometimes you just don't have a choice. You still have to try. If you can swing it, do it. And if you're also trying to sell your house at the same time, you could drop the price. So if it was me, and I kind of know what I'm looking for as far as a house, try for it.
Do you think if it's meant to be, it will be?
Absolutely. Like if you lose out on it, there will be another house coming. But I am of the mindset that when an opportunity presents itself, you take it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you think that upsizers should renovate, let's say a first-time homebuyer's house, do you think that they should renovate before selling?
No. Not unless you're like super handy and this is what you do for a living. Do not renovate. Do not do a major renovation before selling your house. Paint and presentation are so important, and they will beat a major renovation.
Yeah.
All the time.
Fix the holes on the walls, paint, clean.
Yeah. Paint, clean, and buy some new furniture.
Right.
You know, treat yourself. If you're going to move into a bigger home, buy that furniture you want to have and stage it.
I like it. So that kind of wraps up our conversation about upsizing, especially in this current market. If you're considering upsizing in the next year, the best move is to plan early.
Clarity reduces stress and strategy protects your equity.
We'll see you next week.